Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. It is Eagles Cowboys for the division. And boy, have the Eagles missed Deshaun Jackson. Each of the last 4 games without him, the longest pass play has been to a running back, especially Myles Sanders. He has become explosive in the passing game. Let's break down those plays with Myles in our tape study presented by Chickies and Pete's. Here's the head coach, Doug Peterson, with our own Ike Reese.
Slot to the far side of the field. Eagles' deepest penetration. Wentz back. He's looking. He is firing. And it is caught and into the end zone with a touchdown. Eagles score. Myles Sanders.
Joining us here for Eagles Tape Study, Eagles head coach Doug Peterson. Coach, how you doing?
Thank you. Doing well.
I know we had a tough one this past week, but there were some things that we can take out of this game, some very good plays, some explosive plays.
There were, and this first one here is the touchdown to Myles Sanders. So this was a design play with Nelly on the jet sweep motion. We're just trying to get some movement with the linebackers and with the secondary right here. We'd love for, number one, with the noise, it was hard. We snapped it a little bit too far away, but we still got what we wanted. You can see 54's coming downhill. He's got Myles Sanders right there one-on-one. And then we're stretching it out with Dallas and with Zach. So we're going to hold the one high safety here. We're going to take the corner out. And this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to go one-on-one with the linebacker.
You're starting to see this a lot in the NFL. It's all about matchups, right? So you want to get your best athletes in an advantageous situation against these linebackers. And having been in that position before, it's difficult having to cover this running back coming straight out of the backfield with a head of steam.
And the thing is with Myles, the last couple of weeks, we're seeing a few more explosive plays from the backfield in the passing game. So, again, we wanted to isolate 54 or also, 55 in this game bar, and we got the one-on-one that we wanted. Did a great job of avoiding, and then Carson had a nice pocket back here to put the ball in a position where only Myles was going to catch it. Again, great play, a spark that we needed in this football game, and really kind of got us going a little bit offensively.
Yeah, you talked about the explosive play for Myles Sanders, catching the ball out of the backfield. Wasn't really known for that in college at Penn State.
Yeah.
Really a big surprise at how well he's been able to adjust to the NFL passing game.
And he's done a great job. He's been working at it. He worked at it, way back in the spring. He worked at it during training camp, and this is another great example here. In fact, this is a look that we had seen from the Vikings a year ago against us out here, and so our quarterback Carson, who's very smart, very intelligent. So all he did was he brought Dallas down, added him in protection. We take him on a short post and we put him on a wheel route. Now again, we're going to isolate 55, another linebacker, one-on-one with Myles Sanders. Great pocket. Carson had all day to throw. And you can see what we wanted right there. We got it, and then the ball is delivered on time. Safety's out of the way, middle safety. And then, we'd love for him to finish in the end zone, but a great job of making 22 avoid the tackle and then get us down to the 3-yard line.
Yeah, good job run after the catch. Sometimes those easy pitch and catch throws are sometimes the hardest one to make. As a former quarterback yourself, quarterback has to make sure he puts that ball in a good position for him to catch it and be able to run.
Exactly right. And that's the thing, is just putting enough air on it so that your runner or your receiver can go get the football. And Carson did a great job with the touch on this one. Kept it inbounds, and again, Myles did a great job of avoiding 55 and also 22 down the field for a big play.
Down here in the red zone, you go a little empty here. Talk to us about what Carson is seeing, right? I'm imagining he's trying to get these matchups, right? See where the favorable matchup is at.
Yeah, so this route is really designed. We're going to take this corner and try to get him out of here with Nelly, and then we're going to go one-on-one right here with Zach in 22, and it's just a quick out right here to the front pylon. On the other side of this, we run what we call a stick-nod combination here, where he can really either bend it underneath that safety, or if the safety moves inside, Dallas can keep the route higher, and then we run what we call a return route here on the outside. And really, he can pick either side, so he loves the 2-on-2 matchup here, obviously between Nelly and Zach Ertz, so that's where Carson starts. You can see 22 right here, how he jumps outside of Zach, so Carson has to get off of that. And so what he does, he gets his eyes back over here. You can see Dallas now running the stick nod away from that safety, with Alshon on the return. Minnesota does a great job really of covering this play. You can see everybody across the board, there's nowhere to go with the football. So Carson, the athlete that he is, makes a guy miss, and then our scramble drill takes over, our red zone rules take over, and then we get the one-on-one. He slips inside, he being Alshon, and we get the touchdown right there.
Again, linebacker in a difficult position deciding whether to come up and make a play or not.
Exactly right. They got to commit whether they're going to come up and try to tackle Carson or at least defend, and then Carson would have to make a decision either to score or to throw it away.
The thing I like there with Carson, his decision making in the pocket this year, knowing when to take off, knowing when to get rid of the football, not putting himself in harm's way.
Yeah, he's done a really good job with that, being able to orchestrate that. That's part of that sort of that maturation process with the offense, and him getting better as a quarterback and getting older and mature and wiser, and he's done a really good job of that for us already. In the first 6 games.
Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, a proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.
So much respect for you,
always,
man.
man. Good luck. Good job, Let's go. Nice, 2-7. One play at a time. Get your eyes right. Let's go. All right, let's make some plays now. Let's go. Let's go. Hey, buddy. He ain't want that. Yeah, give it to him. Tell him. Tell him I'm right here. He don't want them problems. He don't want them problems. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right, let's go. Hey, get up quick. Get up quick. Hey, right back to it. Let's go. Let's go.
Obviously, the Eagles secondary having some issues, Ike. The Eagles defense have given up 6 touchdowns of 20 or more yards. That is the most in the NFL. And you're facing a Dalvin Cook, then you're facing an Ezekiel Elliott. And sometimes some of the plays that you run on defense where you have your safeties up, that can leave you a little susceptible to a big play in the passing game, huh?
Yeah, there's no such thing as a perfect defense, right? Every defense has a weakness to it. It's just a matter of whether or not the offense will be able to find where their weakness is at in the defense. And so what you have here, 1st and 10, you got the Vikings and regular base personnel, meaning 2 backs, 2 wide receivers and a tight end. That puts the Eagles in base personnel. They are expecting run here, right? So the Vikings will come out in this personnel several times earlier. Eagles played quarters coverage versus this personnel so that they can help out in the pass and the run. And what happens here, when you get a play action, you're going to get these safeties here just a little bit slow to react because they had to respect the Vikings' running ability. But at the same time, when you got receivers like Thielen and Diggs on the outside, those guys are going to be able to climb these cornerbacks' cushion and get behind the safeties here. It makes it difficult. Rodney McLeod is expecting that guy there. Ideally, you want Malcolm to recognize this a little bit sooner and get back in his deep hole so that he can help out Rasul or Sidney, whatever receiver is coming in that area. But again, because the Vikings are such a good run team, he's a little slow getting out of there. That leaves the middle of the field open where Rasul's expecting a little help there. Listen, when you're going against teams like the Vikings, you're going against teams like the Dallas Cowboys that have Ezekiel Elliott, you're going to have to respect that run game, right? But the Eagles are going to need to do a great job of recognizing, I think, the shoulder pads of the offensive lineman when that play action is coming, and then be able to get out of there to get deep to help these cornerbacks out.
And the Cowboys have a lot of explosive plays this year, but they're not running the ball as well in the 3-game losing streak, and their play action isn't working as well. Yeah. So that's a good thing going into this game. And here's Greg Gasell with how the Cowboys are switching things up.
You're right, John. The Cowboys are doing a lot more things this year with their passing game under Kellen Moore. Pass game is normally about concepts, what you do with your routes to work together. One of the things that stands out that's different maybe from the past couple of years when the Cowboys featured more what we call individual and isolation routes is the use of these concepts to get receivers open, particularly versus zone coverage. What you're going to see here against the Green Bay Packers is a really good example of what I'm talking about. And let's start with the initial look. You're going to see Michael Gallup outside of Amari Cooper. Cooper's in the slot here. Now what happens here is Gallup is going to go in motion, and he's going to work inside to the formation and stack behind Cooper. Now, the stack is a really good concept. It works effectively against man or zone coverage. And what you're going to get now is a route concept that a lot of teams run, but it's really effective creating space against zone. It's going to be what we call cross-country dagger. What's going to happen is Gallup is going to run kind of a deep over or deep crossing route across the field. And that's going to take a safety with him. And then you're going to get Cooper. And again, it could be any receiver here. It's about the concept. Cooper's going to run the dig route. And there's going to be a void that opens here for one other reason. And that's Ezekiel Elliott leaking out of the backfield into the flat. So it's really a 3-receiver route concept that creates a void in the middle of this zone defense. And Dak Prescott now has an open passing lane with an easy throw by NFL standards to hit Amari Cooper. Now, the critical point here is not that Amari Cooper caught the ball, it's the pass game concept. You're seeing more of that with the Cowboys this year, and particularly in the first 3-4 games, they were very, very effective with this. I would expect that they'll get back to this against the Eagles secondary. And the reality is the Eagles secondary has struggled at times, particularly in their zone concepts. And if you see the Cowboys now come out early in the game, this is something to watch for. See how they go about attacking with their pass game concepts, both with their wide receivers, their tight ends, and Ezekiel Elliott, who's a meaningful part of the pass game.
All right, there's a lot going on with the Cowboys offense, and when they're on it, they are on it. They have the second most yards per play on offense in the NFL at 6.8. They've been struggling lately, though, but they still have a lot of shifts and motion before the snap on offense. What does that do to a defense, Mike?
Well, it does a lot for the offense. They want to know what they're doing defensively so they can get a clue as, is it man coverage? Is it zone coverage? But it also, for an offense, it shows you the matchups. So if I'm quarterbacking and I see all these shifts and motions going on, I can pretty much tell where the matchup is, where I see a weakness that I can exploit. And it also will confuse the defense, John. So if you can confuse the defense, you got the advantage.
Yeah, and he doesn't get confused a lot, especially on the show. Ike, as a person on defense, as a player on defense, what are you thinking in your mind when you're seeing all these shifts and motions?
Well, Mike's right. I mean, part of that is to cause a little bit of confusion on the defensive side of the ball. So as a defense, you want to make sure your assignment's smart. You got to know all your empty responsibilities. If they start out on empty and then go back into a formation, you got to know those responsibilities, be able to get to where you're supposed to, and then play assignment, technique type of football. When a team is doing a lot of pre-snap stuff, you have to be almost a step ahead of those guys, right? You got to be able to anticipate what they're trying to do to you. And more importantly, communicating out there, right? We used to say as a defense, don't keep any secrets. Talk it out.
Yell it out.
If you know what they're trying to do or you got to beat on it, make sure you're communicating that to the rest of your teammates.
All right, the Eagles have not won in a dome since they won the Super Bowl, 0-5 in their last 5 dome games, and slow starts as well on the road this year. They're being outscored 20-0 in the first quarter. What's with the slow starts on the road and also some of the issues that are coming up during the game with mistakes?
Well, certainly when you go on the road, you got to deal with the hostile environment. You got to deal with the crowd noise, and with that comes communication issues. And many times when you get to the line of scrimmage, as the Eagles do on the road, in Atlanta it's an issue, in Minnesota it was an issue, in Dallas it may be an issue as well. Yeah. So when you're on the road, you have to make sure that everything is communicated early, because when you get to the line of scrimmage, John, and you're trying to do it with verbal communications, it's very difficult to do with the crowd noise. That's the case here. On this play, the Eagles were just backed up on a 5-yard penalty, and now it's a 3rd and 9 situation. They get to the line, they want to try and communicate, and I think Carson's trying to get the protection to go right. He points right, so I think everyone starts to move to the right side, but obviously everything's not communicated, and you'll see Jordan Howard, he starts right, but no one accounts for Eric Kendricks. He comes clean. A defender comes clean off the edge. And that's the kind of issues that you run into on the road, especially when things are moving around pre-snap and you're trying to figure out where you got to go. That's a big issue, and especially when you're on the road.
Enemy Intel is brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics at Jefferson Health, the official orthopedics and healthcare partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
One of the things that you see watching tape of the Cowboys this year, especially on 3rd down, is the way they use more multiple fronts. And one player in particular has really become a part of what they do with their pressure concepts, and that's linebacker Jalen Smith. Now, Smith lines up very often on the ball across the front, and he's often part of pressure packages. That's really been kind of an addition to the Cowboys' pressure packages this year. And here's one great example against the Saints. This is going to be what we call a tilted front. You'll notice that there's 3 defenders to one side of the offensive center for the Saints. And one of those defenders is Jalen Smith, who's essentially lined up as kind of a stand-up 3 technique here. But this play has a lot of elements to it, so let's kind of walk through this. Before we get to Smith, let's start with the defensive end, Kerry Hyder, and the defensive tackle, Malik Collins. They're going to run what we call an ET stunt, meaning Hyder, the defensive end, goes first as the picker. Collins, the tackle, will loop around him as the looper. That's the first part of this, and that actually is going to work because what happens here is the picker Hyder is able to squeeze through and get immediate pressure on Teddy Bridgewater. But let's take this back for a moment because there's another element to this. Remember we mentioned Jalen Smith lining up on the line of scrimmage? Now he starts in between Collins and Hyder. But what's going to happen here, in addition to the ET stunt on the left side of the defense, you're going to get Smith looping all the way around in what we call a long stick. He will loop around Robert Quinn, the defensive end, on the other side of the front. So you're going to get pressure from both sides. You're going to get Hyder working inside as part of the ET stunt, creating immediate pressure on Bridgewater. And then you're going to get Jalen Smith working behind, looping behind Quinn, creating pressure from the other side, and you get a sack on Bridgewater. Now, it's going to be very important for the Eagles' offensive line to recognize these kinds of things, to understand the front looks, and then understand what can come from that. Because Jalen Smith, in a lot of the dime and nickel packages that the Cowboys now use, lines up on the ball inside and very often is used as a pass rusher.
All right, Jalen Smith up there on third downs with the pressure package. Let's talk about that Eagles offensive line and containing the pass rush of the Cowboys. I'm going to put up the bagel. DeMarcus Lawrence, 0 sacks in his career against the Eagles. Lane Johnson is a big part of that, right?
Yeah, well, don't jinx the whole thing.
Oh, you know, yeah, like I have anything to do with
the
this.
guy can play, so you don't know when he's going to break out, but Lane Johnson has been outstanding against him. He's talented, but when Lane Johnson is playing the way he plays, the way he can play, I think Lane Johnson can shut down any pass rusher. But you make a great point about Jalen Smith. A lot like Anthony Barr last week, they move him around a lot. You know, they'll bring him from a lot of different angles, different positions, and he is a factor. But the offensive line of the Eagles, and especially the tackles, they have to be on point in this game and keep Carson upright.
Yeah, how about the left side of the Eagles line?
Yeah, I mean, Michael mentioned, DeMarcus Lawrence and the fact that he and Lane Johnson have had these matchups, and Lane seems to have gotten the better end of it. But DeMarcus Lawrence is a guy just waiting to have a breakout game, so you don't want to tempt fate there with him. And then you look at the other side, Robert Quinn, the guy they brought in this year. I think he was a sack leader at one point a few years ago. Sort of fell off a little bit, but I think he's doing a good job over there going up against these left tackles this year. He does a nice job of using his speed rushes to get around the edge. This Dallas defense has underperformed up until this point in the season. You don't want to give them any type of life as far as having positive plays out there on the field.
Yeah. But you're right with Quinn. His calling card is his speed.
Yeah.
And Carson Wentz is 9-14 on the road. This is a big spot for Carson and the Eagles. All right, the Cowboys come in having lost 3 straight. They're not running the ball as well. There's been more turnovers by Dak Prescott, and he's been sacked more. So the Eagles, if this comes down to the trenches, they need to pressure Dak Prescott and keep Carson Wentz clean. And for more X's and O's, you can check out our Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast wherever podcasts are available. Thanks for watching Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. Enjoy Eagles Dallas. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local tri-state Toyota dealers, a proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.